World War II remains to be one of the most deadly and tragic events to ever occur in history. The events of this war would leave 3% of the entire world to perish. In other words, 60 to 85 million. Every country was committed to protecting themselves, or attacking another, which prioritized coastal defenses for any countries along the Atlantic and the Pacific. Germany was particularly interested in establishing their own naval superiority. The naval power that came with the Third Reich would never necessarily terrify the Allies throughout the onset duration of the war. The German Kriegsmarine was weak for the most part, as German U-boats became quickly obsolete after being attacked by the Allies' Hedgehog anti-submarine mortars. The Germans needed a better navy, and they needed a truly threatening flagship. The Bismarck enters the picture. With 50,000 tons of pure water-displacing artillery, the Bismarck immediately declared itself one of the most powerful vessels of the era. Many had wondered whether the vessel would ever be sunk at all. It had ripped through the HMS Hood, a certainly formidable vessel for addressing the average German assault craft. This left a deep mark on the Allies, who knew the Bismarck would be an issue, and a formidable one at that. The British Admiralty would obligate 16 vessels to pursue the Bismarck with unrelenting aggression. Most of the vessels would be able to converge upon the ship and maneuver a full flank on the Bismarck just 300 miles off the coast of Ireland. It would take everything they had, but the Bismarck would eventually sink, taking thousands of its crew with it. One member of the ship was known to have survived, and a peculiar one at that. On a piece of floorboard straying away from the Bismarck, a small black and white cat was spotted. The spotting vessel, formerly called the HMS Cossack, would bring the feline on board. The crew and the captain would officially offer to name the cat Oscar, in reference to O, the international code of signaling for overboard. Yet, because of his journey, he would later earn the title Unsinkable Sam. Many vessels dating back to the 1500s would actually have felines on their ships, which they called the ship's cat. The original purpose of the ship's cat was vermin control, as trading ships were often invaded by rodents and insects that would not only ruin supplies, but even ruin the integrity of the ship. Although, as metal ships became more and more prominent, these feline friends would become sort of a morale booster for the crewmen on long voyages. The ship's cat was often a symbol for the ship, or would offer some sort of homely comfort to the often lonesome sailors. This is what the members of the HMS Cossack had been longing for, and they would adore Oscar. They fed him food left from the rations and allowed him to roam freely across the lower levels and even the deck of the entire vessel. Although, fate would not be in the favor of HMS Cossack for much longer. A torpedo suddenly struck the HMS Cossack from a German U-boat. This greatly hindered the ship, although it managed to stay afloat for several more days, as crew was evacuated and towing attempts were initiated. The Cossack would eventually sink, but never took anything with it, and Oscar would survive again. Oscar would be transferred to the HMS Ark Royal, one of the earliest aircraft carriers of the Royal Navy. The Ark Royal was an incredible vessel for its time, and it was the flagship of its navy, until it would later be succeeded by the HMS Albion. Many considered the Ark Royal to be a lucky ship, since it had survived many close calls in the past. German torpedoes, direct fire, all of which it had sustained in the past. Now, no more than a few miles away from shore, a German U-boat would yet again attempt to strike the carrier. The attempt was successful, and it caused the Ark Royal to lean a beam to starboard until it was later towed. One of its 15,000 strong crew had died, and Oscar was yet again lucky. Oscar had lived a pretty eventful life. Well, especially for his species. So after the Ark Royal was decommissioned, the now deemed Unsinkable Sam was sent to live with the governor of Gibraltar. He would spend the majority of his life making small travels to other parts of England and chasing around mice into the governor's office. He would later pass in 1955 as a legend and a veteran.